The question is strategic planning necessary, and I suspect that there are some people that would think that it would not be. In fact, I have a friend that I really admire a great deal, a pastor, that if I gave you his name, you would recognize it immediately. I heard him say one time, I don't believe in planning. And when I heard him say it, was on a videotape that I was watching at the time, and I was a little disturbed because I really admire this guy, and I can't imagine anybody saying that. And then he validated this point by saying that in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, he said, don't take any thought for tomorrow, because tomorrow will take care of the needs of itself. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And as it occurred, rather humorously, I think, a few years later, I got a call from this gentleman, and he asked me if I'd come and help him do some work with his organization, and I was happy to do that. I flew to the city where he lived, and he met me at the airport, and he says, well, let's go out to lunch. And so we went out to lunch, and he had his Bible with him, and we go and we sit down at the table, and he sets down on the table his Bible, and underneath his Bible is a day timer. And I found that to be interesting for somebody that doesn't believe in planning, that he'd have a day timer. And so in the context of the meal, I said, can I look at your day timer? He said, sure. And I'm kind of looking through, and there's something was happening in November, which would at that particular time was about 6 months ahead. And he was going to be in a certain city. I said, you're going to be there? And he says, yeah. And he says, could you have been anywhere else? He says, I could have been to a lot of places. And I said, well, why did you choose here? Because he says, I think God's really doing some work here, and I really want to be a part of that. And I said, well, that's just exciting. And he said, well, why are you asking me all these questions? I says, because I heard this sermon like 3 years ago, and it just really bugged me. And he clarified himself a little bit, because I think we all are planners. I mean, the realities are, if you know what you're going to do tomorrow or next week or sometime next year, then the realities are you're making plans. So I think planning is important. And I have a friend of mine, is actually an employee or partner of ours in our consulting business, and she and her husband and go on vacations. And this is what they do. And they get at the end of the driveway, and then they look at each other, should we go right or left? And so she says, let's go right. So they go right, and they go to another fork in the road. Well, should we go, north or south? Well, let's go south. So they go south. They got the kids in the back, of course, and they're going, and the kids are going on vacation. They know they're going on vacation. And then this is going on for 2 weeks, and eventually they get back home. And of course, mom and dad are saying, and the kids are saying all the way, are we there yet? Well, of course, we're not there yet, because we don't even know where we're going. And they never experienced the joy of success, because they never knew what success was, because if this was where we're going, if we're going to go to the Grand Canyon, at least we're going to see it, and then we can go back home. So they miss everything. They miss all the joy of it, only because they really didn't know where they're going. And it seems ludicrous at one level, and yet I know a lot of organizations that are just like that. They don't know what they're going to do. They don't have a plan to where it is that they want to go. And if you don't have a destination, my dad probably said the same thing your dad told you, and that is, if you don't have a target, you're not going to hit it. And a lot of organizations don't hit the target because they don't have a plan.